Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 605. Mr. Somich.
Lil Parx Huzzah!
Oh boy, Pennsylvania Derby Day. No turf racing at Parx. Hasn't been there since the early spring. But despite it being an all-dirt sequence, we got some great races, all stakes. 3 of them graded, including the co-headliners, Grade 1 Cotillion for $1 million and the Grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. Torpedo Anna won last year's Cotillion. We've seen some great horses come out of the Pennsylvania Derby in the past as well. And looks like another salty line. When I saw the lineup for the Travers, and it was going to be 4 horses versus Sovereignty, a lot of people complained, right? And you and I were like, listen, there's the Pennsylvania Derby. They're all going to aim there. Thank goodness we were right.
Yeah, no, it's a fun Pennsylvania Derby field. I kind of wish we just got this in the Travers, but at the same time, we saw a lot of horses just decide they didn't want to face Sovereignty. We saw out of the Travers, Torpedo Anna's trainer Kenny McPeak be like, "Yeah, I don't want to face Sovereignty either. I'm pointing to the distaff instead of pointing to the Classic." So, look, not shocked. Sets up for a fun little pick 5 here, mandatory payout, as well as you noted in our text thread, which makes a big difference because this is usually a jackpot pick 5. So one of the few times we will go to Parx and play the pick 5 is when it's mandatory. And this is a great sequence to be doing it. It's not just the Pennsylvania Derby and the Cotillion as well. We get to see Barnes come back as well. So it's a fun card all over the place. And a couple prices I like, a couple races I think are going to be chalky, and we'll get to all of that.
I was just pulling it up right now. The pick 5 at Parx is, somebody must have hit it recently. I don't see it. That's so weird. I was looking up their pick 5 carryover info on Equibase, and it's not there. That's really bizarre. I know they have one. They always do. It's a big jackpot pool. Nobody hit it recently. But anyways, it's going to be a lot of fun. As you mentioned, some big stars coming back, and it all kicks off with the Parx Dirt Mile. So with that said, let's get into it, buddy. Riders up. All right, late pick 5, Saturday, September 20th at Parx. A mandatory payout of the Philly Big 5, rather. It starts with race 11, the Parx Dirt Mile Stakes. Field of 9 in here. Some old friends like Catalytic, Coastal Mission, who won this race last year, Duke of Gloucester. An interesting mix. To me, it wasn't a standout at all. Where did you go on top here?
Yeah, I didn't find a big time standout either. I ended up with the 8 Coastal Mission on top here, 3-1 on the morning line. So not getting too crazy here in the first race inside of this sequence. This is a horse that I think just kind of favors this 1 mile distance. We saw a lot of efforts at Aqueduct, Parx, 1-for-1 at Parx going this distance. I think that is definitely a positive, and it should set up well as well. This is a horse that has some tactical speed, so it's going to be closer to the pace. And then we'll see if we can get the kick closing for home. Also think this is a little bit of a step back in competition. I mean, even last time in the Stymie, ran 3rd in that race, but both Bank Frenzy and Worcester won next out. So that turned out to be a fairly good race. It was in the Cigar Mile, the 49er, both of those pretty good races as well. So I'm going to go with the number 8 Coastal Mission on top off the layoff here for a trainer that hits at 37% with a $4.12 ROI off similar 180-day plus layoffs.
I'm against him because of the layoff, and I know you made a great point on the stat, but like 98% of those numbers are, this guy is like one of the kings of Charlestown.
Mm-hmm.
So he's beating shitty horses at Charlestown frequently with his own horses, but also off the layoff. But he is talented at it. And this is the defending champion who was the 7-5 favorite in this race last year, but hasn't raced since March 1st. And when he went through kind of a similar layoff from December to March of this past year, didn't run very well in the Stymie Stakes. So I'm not going to blame the wet track. He's 6 for 9 overall on a wet track. So I would let him beat me. If he does beat me, I'm going to run this back as a pick 4 because I really have some stronger opinions elsewhere. But I couldn't pull the trigger on him what's going to be a short price.
No, I don't blame you. Probably going to be going off as your favorite. But I agree with you on the trainer stats. They are very Charlestown heavy, but this is at least a horse that has been everywhere, right? He
Yes.
has not been a Charlestown horse. And so this is one of the better horses inside of the barn. And I'll lean on the fact that still does very well with these type of horses. And this horse has been working well in the morning too. 3 bullets
Yeah.
in the last 5. Really would be 4, but there was a 1-1 and then 2 of 20 in the other one. So the mornings have been very good. You get your regular rider. I'm going to trust that this horse is ready to fire here, especially considering they're going right into a stakes race.
So we each went 4 deep here, and we agreed on 3 horses. That was the one that you used that I didn't. My top play we'll talk about next, just to his inside, is the 7 Far Mo Power. The Mayor's Mile Stakes was a fun one because I bet Awfully Cool. I think he is a really fun horse. And if you watch the replay, as soon as the gates popped open, he leapt and then he went down to his nose and was a heavy favorite. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, his bet. And the miracle is that he managed to win. But the 7 ran a winning race in defeat. He just got beat by a horse that was clearly better than him. But I think with Paco Lopez aboard, that's a great sign. He is kind of the local star for this division. He's 10 for 25 at Parx, 0 for 2 when he leaves. So he's very strong here. These are very strong Parx connections. I will also say if Awfully Cool was in here, I would single him. I love him that much that especially against this group, I think he would beat the pants off of them. I am hoping that, because I said out of that race, I want them to send him to Churchill for the ACAC because I want to see him take on Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile contenders and see how he fares because I think he's really that strong. Unfortunately, he hasn't worked since the Mayor's Mile, so not going to happen. But if the horse I would single in here but isn't here was a length better than this horse, this is going to be the top play for me.
I don't blame you. Second pick for me. I think this horse makes a ton of sense. Interesting that it's a 7-year-old that's jumping up into stakes company. But this is a really cool 7-year-old. Like you said, 10 for 25 at Parx, also in the money 9 times. Another horse that has tactical speed, but should be able to get a good trip here. I do think there's enough speed in this spot that you're going to be able to kind of sit right off it and be able to go. Parx, you do want to be a little more forwardly placed. Both of these horses should provide some of that forwardly placed ability here. And look, you're going to get jockey shipping in here. Paco's still very, very good at this racetrack. He knows what he's doing at Parx, and I think you got to respect it when he's on a horse.
So the Pennsylvania Derby preview day, Smarty Jones, Catherine Sophia, and all the other stakes that were that day, including this one. Paco won all but the big races. I think he had 5 or 6 wins on that card and just didn't win the Catherine Sophia or the Smarty Jones. But every other race he was winning. So he shows up with. You don't know day to day, especially at Parx on like a Tuesday, what kind of an effort you're going to get from Paco any given race. But I have learned he will give his all on a bit. I mean, remember Reef Runner, Green Flash Handicap at Del Mar. Big race, horse had a chance. Paco, tried a little too hard, but Paco tried really hard that day to win.
Yeah, you get full Paco effort on days like this. You don't really have to worry about it, especially because, look, Paco likes his money, right? And if there's $300,000 in the purse, running third matters. When there's, $8,000, it doesn't. So you do see different efforts from him depending on the race level, and you got the higher end race level today. So I do think he's going to be able to run well.
Let's talk about my third choice, another horse we agreed on, the 4. Saffie Joseph bringing plenty of horses, including the 4-horse Dilger for this card. And I know this horse has been a lot of speed and quit, but boy, is he fast. And the other, I think, major speed contender we're also both using is the 1 Nelson Avenue. If you get good Joel Rosario on a speed horse, the 1's a contender. He was 4th on my ticket because I don't know which Rosario I'm going to get, but it's also why I put the 4 on. I thought these two could go out there early and they just bring in enough class against the other speed in this race that I just think that they're better.
Yeah, interesting that Abreu decided to go turf with this horse. So it's switches barns, runs in the Salvatore Mile, gets a sloppy track that day. I thought ran pretty well with Camacho aboard, ends up running second to Bishop's Bay, and then jumps to turf and back-to-back races. The race 2 back I thought was a very good race. Faced Big Everest, who's a pretty good horse there at Saratoga, and then jumped in the $500,000 Tappet, where it just kind of overmatched there. But now we're getting back to dirt. I agree with you on the speed side. I do like the fact that breaking that way back at the 7 furlong point, with Nelson Avenue, was able to come from just off the pace. And so we'll see what Rosario does there. As far as Dilger, that was my third pick. So a very similar 2, 3, 4 here is your 1, 2, 3. And Dilger to me is one of those horses where you just kind of have to respect what this horse has been running against. Hold My Bourbon, Echo Again, 2 pretty good horses there on the debut. Steps forward a little bit in that second race, ends up losing to Echo Again once again, and Capital Idea. But again, that's a pretty competitive race at Saratoga, and it's tough to be forwardly placed going a mile at Saratoga. It's a lot easier to do it here at Parx. So I do think we get a better effort from Dilger. The one horse that concerns me with both these is Concealed Carry, who's going to be your pace setter, but is going to quit. And so the question is he going to take a little bit too much of a lick out of Dilger and Nelson Avenue? That's why they weren't higher up on my in my order.
Yeah, that's good points on that one. I ended up using the 3 as well in here, Duke of Gloucester, just because that I think that another horse that locally that I think is good, but you've got strong connections. Dexter Haddock, when he's on a good horse, is really good, as you see with this horse in 2 starts. Michael Moore is strong. But ultimately, I put him on because I don't think he's really a speed horse. The Mayor's Mile 2 back, he ended up, and he might not run, right? Because he just ran 5 days ago. It'll be 6 days for the 3 Duke of Gloucester, if he ends up running again on Saturday. But his best races are coming from off the pace. The Mayor's Mile, they went so slow. He just kind of naturally inherited it. And we see that with horses that when they want to not be on the lead, but they're forced to do it, sometimes they just don't run as well. And you almost could make the case for the 4 Dilger because of the horse you mentioned, the coming from off the pace a couple of times to win as well. Maybe he just didn't want to be on the front end in those races, the last 2 at Saratoga.
Yeah, that to me is the big thing here. So first off, will he run? I'm not sure. You mentioned the layoff. I do love the fact that this is a Michael Moore reclaim. So this horse got claimed from Moore and Final Turn Racing for 40, runs back for 40 for Ness, and immediately gets claimed back for those connections, and then not put back in for a tag the last 3 races. The race 2 back, you're right, kind of inherited the pace. I don't think that was necessarily Duke of Gloucester's best style. I think this horse wants to come from a little bit off it and should have a much better pace setup today. So I don't hate it. I decided not to go there because I didn't want to go 5 deep with the 5 lowest prices.
Totally understand that one. Second race, the grade 2 Gallant Bob, 6 furlongs, restricted to 3-year-olds. It is a grade 2 event, and a field of 10 3-year-olds entered for this spot. Some horses we're familiar with, like Donut God, Neo Equos, who was in the Kentucky Derby, and Barnes, who I've never really been a fan of. And yet, in this race, I'm singling Barnes. I'll just throw it out there. I think that if his worst race beats 8 of these 9 or other horses, right? His worst race beats them. You know, maybe one other horse could get lucky, but to me, I've just taken a stand with Barnes, the 5 horse here.
Yeah, look, I have Barnes on top. I wouldn't try and talk anyone off it. I thought the H. Allen Jerkins was actually a really nice race, considering it was first off of a pretty long layoff. Running into Patch Adams, I like the fact that he kind of did not need to go right to the front. You saw him take some kickback and still be able to push forward a little bit late. And again, 2 really good horses there, and Patch Adams and Captain Cook. So I do agree with you. I think this is the horse to beat in Barnes. I'm going to try and beat him with one other horse here. The 1 horse Retribution for Cherie DeVoe. Kendrick Carmouche gets the mount here. It's a pretty lightly raced horse, much like Barnes, really, where there's still upside, I believe. And this is a horse that, broke the maiden at Fairgrounds, went to Keeneland. I thought ran pretty well there. Ran into Gunmetal when Gunmetal was really good in that race, and then goes to the Chick Lang, wins that from the 11 post. Returns down to Churchill, runs in the Maxfield. So again, running against pretty good horses here, including running fourth with Captain Cook third in there. And then ships to Parx for the kind of prep here, and I thought was pretty impressive in that win. You've got a win over the track, 2 for 3 at the distance with a 3rd place finish as well. And this one's the one where if we do see the pace heat up and we see Barnes forward into that pace, and there is quite a bit of horses that want to go. I mean, the 6 Donut God wants to go, the 7 Madhouse wants to go, the 8 Fire Pit wants to go, the 9 Friday Surprise wants to go, the 10 Neo Equos will be forwardly placed. I think the 1 horse Retribution is the one that can pick it up here. And it's not like Retribution is going to be a million back, right? Well, Retribution should be relatively close to a pace. And if that's the case, I think Retribution able to get a reasonable shot at beating Barnes if we don't see the A effort from Barnes. Chris Maiello says, man, but if Barnes was good, shouldn't he have won last time? I think Patch Adams might be the best 3-year-old sprinter in America. And so it's hard for me to say it's hard for me to say, well, Barnes should have beaten him first off a layoff in what I thought was a pretty tough race, a pretty tough spot for him to debut. This is a lot easier. I mean, like a lot easier. We're talking like down 3 or 4 rungs on the ladder, not just one rung, which was what you assume from grade 1 to grade 2 companies. So I do think that Barnes has the opportunity here. The 7 furlongs would be the one question for me with Barnes. Is a touch too short? Or I'm sorry, 6 furlongs is a touch too short. The San Vicente was at 7. That H. Allen Jerkins was at 7. Did break the maiden at 5.5. But, it's the maiden race. It's Baffert. I'm not going to call that one a big time win. So I'm a little concerned about the 6 furlongs for Barnes, but I do think Retribution's the horse you want as the most likely to upset Barnes.
Yeah, so Barnes for me, a big reason because of the price and because I wanted to go deep in the first and last legs. But I think win bet wise, Barnes don't touch. Don't put money on Barnes to win because the risk reward factor is he's not a slam dunk and he'll get bet like he's a slam dunk. So don't bet him to win. The one is who I had in second, and that's who I think if you're going to make a win bet, you bet it on the one because you'll get every bit of 5-1 and more. And Kendrick Carmouche, fantastic jockey at Parx. He's not there all the time, but when he is, he's really strong. So yeah, I agree with your choice to go there. Neo Equos I think is going to get overbet because he won the Jersey Shore at Monmouth and he was in the Kentucky Derby. Donut God, I think I would have been more interested in if he had a better effort in the Jersey Shore. I know that was off of a 7-month layoff, but he's now coming in off of a 2-month layoff, and his buyers have all been kind of stagnant, right? 81, 82, 83. If you're going to play a speedball, I think the 7 honestly is a better play than the 6.
Yeah, that to me was the big knock on the 6 and the 10. It feels like they need the lead or at least need to be very forward to be able to win this race. I don't think they are the fastest early, and you'd need a massive improvement, right? I mean, like the 10 or the 6 needs to take a big time jump forward to compete with Barnes, and they're going to do it against what I think is the more difficult route, not being able to come from off the pace. I don't think they're going to be able to get a clean lead. I think this is going to be contested. I think we are going to see 21 and change, 44 and change, and if that's the case, I don't think Donut God can make the lead. And I don't think that you're going to see those two horses be able to hold off horses like Barnes and horses like Retribution. So I want to try and beat the 6 and the 10, who I think are kind of takeout reducers here from a pick 5 perspective. I don't disagree with you on the 7. Probably the speed of the speed. Definitely a massive jump up in class here. So that's really the main question mark. But I think you get a lot better than 6-1. I think you're going to end up with closer to 10-1, 15-1 on the 7. If that's the case, yeah, you could make a case for the 7 being involved here if he is able to get loose and then just get home.
Yeah, and it's a small track on their biggest day, and it's all dirt racing. It's far from uncommon to see those tracks be super souped up. Look at Colonial Downs; they're not as small as Parx, but their big days. That dirt track they're setting records, and the American Promises winning the Virginia Derby made that. I'll never forget how many people, including who I work with at FanDuel, that were like, "That's the Kentucky Derby winner." I'm like, calm down. Everybody calm down. It's a super highway for a reason there. Let's move on to the first of a... Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Quick. Just want to pull up Jeff O'Reilly's comparing buyers, 2-year-olds and 3-year-old. Just expound on that a little bit, because I'd love to talk about that if you want to expound on it a little bit. I realize Donut God's buyers, 2 of the 3 come as a 2-year-old. You only have one example as a 3-year-old there. So not sure which horses you're talking about. If you want to comment in the chat there, happy to talk through the 2 to first 3 buyer thing, because I know that's something a lot of people struggle with, especially when you're trying to figure out what upgrade is a reasonable upgrade for those horses.
Yeah, I think we'll revisit if Jeff puts something in the chat. Don't feel like you have to, but if you want to. The first of back-to-back $1 million Grade 1 races for 3-year-olds. The Cotillion amount is 16th for the fillies. You've got your Kentucky Oaks champion, Good Cheer. You've got Scottish Lassie, who pulled off the upset in the CCA Oaks last time out. You've got Lacara, who won the Grade 1 Acorn, and the Grade 1, Scottish Lassie also won the Frizette. So there's a lot of Grade 1 winners in this race, and I didn't use any of them.
I don't totally blame you, because my top pick here is going to be 8-1 on the morning line. Give me the 3 Claquette here on top. This is a horse that we haven't seen since winning the Indiana Oaks, going a mile and 16th. This horse has gotten better with every single start in my mind. The Indiana Oaks didn't really try and beat not great horses, but did it in the manner that I think that you really should do it. So I thought that was a pretty impressive race. I've got no interest in Scottish Lassie. that was a field of 4 in the CCA Oaks. Scottish Lassie just kind of got it her own way up front and was able to run away. We've talked about Lacara a bunch on this show. Like, we were on her in the Acorn, right? I mean, we've had her at so it's like, if she can get forward and she gets the right track, P.S. a Saratoga 2-turn mile and an 1/8 race on a sloppy track is the right track for her. I think she's capable, but I don't think she gets that version of this track. And I think the fact that the 1 and the 2, who both draw inside to each other, makes it really kind of crazy that it's going to be difficult for them to be able to either of them to be able to hold on. I think they both set the pace. They both make it easier for horses coming from the back. And I think Claquette here is the horse that has the opportunity to be able to really make that jump. Because of that, I'll put the 3 on top here at 8-1.
Top play for me as well. I don't know, I'm really hoping because of those 3 different grade 1 winners in here that we will get close to 8-1, but I know you and I are not the only ones who like her quite a bit. The fact that Brendan Walsh had a horse that was even money favorite on debut in the Gulfstream Park Championship meet, and then was a $1.42 favorite at Keeneland. I mean, has been bet in all 4 starts right out of the gate. There was a lot of hype on this one. And the Brendan Walsh barn, I've got some sources in there. They were saying, this is not my advice, I'm literally quoting them. They're saying, bet the house on Clicquot. They think that she is absolutely dominating this race, going to win. Now, it's trainer speak, but it's also a barn that doesn't often report like that. So, I think her form has been incredible. Even on debut, she just went too fast, too early. She was still learning she had to ration some of that speed, and she is very, very good. So, same top play for me. I think where did we each go in here? I know we used the 3. We also both used the 8, right? Dry powder? No.
I went
into the wrong race.
I went 3.
I looked at the wrong race for you.
I use Good Cheer because I still think Good Cheer is better than Nitrogen in the Alabama. Like, rewatching it, Nitrogen was a little bit all over the place. I don't think Good Cheer really got the opportunity to run by her. I also think, like, she's better than the 1 and the 2. I could make a case for the 4, the 5, the 6, and the 8 to me aren't big threats. I thought you could really go 3-7 or 3-4-7 if you wanted in here. So I decided to go 3-7 and leave the 4 Indy Bay out. But I do like the 3 the most. But I respect the 7 still, Good Cheer. And the one frustrating part with Good Cheer is doesn't seem like she's gotten better since the early part of her 3-year-old campaign. I would have liked to see her improve at some point. But this race does set up perfectly for her if she can just run the race that we saw in the Fairgrounds Oaks, the race that we saw in the Kentucky Oaks, even the race we saw in the Alabama, are all good enough to beat this field. So even without much improvement, I think that she's a major player.
And that's my concern. My concern with her is that she's peaked. It's one of 2 things. Either she hated Saratoga, which a lot of horses do. It's a graveyard of champions for a reason. Or she just was so good earlier than her compatriots that it took them a long time to catch up to her. I'm betting on the latter. If you remember, I was all over her for the Oaks back in December of last year. So it's not like I'm loving picking against her here, but I'm just going to take a shot against and hope that I'm right. I did use the 4 Indy Bay on here. A big reason I went 3 deep is because I'm chucking all of the short-priced horses. Indy Bay is on the ticket. You look at her resume since Safi took over. I mean, she broke the maiden at Gulfstream going 7, went to Oaklawn and beat winners for the first time. That's not easy. Then won the stakes race, the Jersey Girl going 6 at Saratoga. Victory Ride, maybe a little too long, but Echo Sound, very dominating winner of that race. Charlestown Oaks, 2 turns, but showed a lot of speed and ability to handle kind of that Charlestown speed you see from some of the locals. So I think this is one, unlike maybe our 3 horse, I think I'll get closer to 8-1 on her. Don't get Irad. Irad chooses to ride Clicquot. It's kind of funny that T-Gap's riding for Safi and Irad's riding for Walsh in this race when it seems like it should be the other way. But I did put her on the ticket in second.
Yeah, I don't mind this horse. I think this is, if you're looking for another price, I think the 4 horse is the most logical next price here. Ran well at Charlestown last time out. I thought ran okay in the Victory Ride. Obviously distance questions. I think that's going to be a big part of it, as well as, like, what's the trip? Is this going to be a horse that, because we're stretching out from sprints, is going to be in the tussle with the 1 and the 2 early? And that was my main concern for Indy Bay, is that we're doing something new here, and the style that I expect Indy Bay to have, probably not the style you want, considering you're trying to do something new.
I threw Dry Powder on kind of one of the last horses on. Louis Size obviously is not going to leave Good Cheer for Dry Powder, but It's funny that Fraser's in town. He gets them out. Um, I really thought her Catherine Sophia win was very impressive because she had to deal with breaking from post 11 of 13. Stalked, was able to kind of get over into position and then drew off really impressively. I know this is a big step up in class, but I'm also willing to forgive the CCA Oaks for the same reason we're both discounting Scottish Lassie because she got it easy. It was a 4-horse field, and Dry Powder was able to pass one horse to get third, but it was just a merry-go-round race. She had a good pace setup last time out. She had really good pace setups to run well in the past. And Chad Summers, I think that we've seen the highs and lows of Chad Summers. This is one of his best seasons as a trainer because he doesn't have that many horses, but he's putting them in the right spots and he's being very careful with what he does with them. I love you, Chad. I think you finally learned to stop shooting over your head with horses. You deserved a shot in the CCA Oaks. You won the Catherine Sophia, so you deserve a shot here. And unlike the 4, I have no distance questions with Dry Powder. Just, is she better than all of these?
Yeah, I don't think there's a distance issue, right? I agree with you on the CCA Oaks, kind of a line through it type race. And if you take that one out, numbers have been getting better every single race. It's a gun runner. That's a positive thing. We've seen gun runners get better with time as well. I wouldn't talk anyone off a 10-1 in this race, right? So I'm not going to knock you for doing it here, but I thought it was much. I wanted to go short here because I wanted to say, hey, if it's not good cheer, I think it's Claquette, the 3-horse, or however you pronounce it. So to me, it was either the 3 or the 7. But I don't hate the 4 or the 8. I'm not using the 1 or the 2. The 5 and the 6 aren't making the ticket. So to me, the 3, 4, 7, or 8 are the horses that you want to end up with here. Going back to Jeff O'Reilly real quick, he said, I was mainly saying comparing Donut God's one buyer as a 3-year-old versus his as a 2-year-old, and already saying he didn't improve is crazy. You can project some improvement here. I agree with you, Jeff. You can project some improvement. The problem is he probably needs to improve 15% to win the race. And if he had improved, let's say 5% from the 2-year-old to 3-year-old season, I could make an argument that other 10% can come. It's the problem is he needs to take that big time step. Now, is it possible? Of course. It's a lightly raced horse, second time out as a 3-year-old, for a trainer that I respect and Lynch. I just wish that he was the only speed if I was going to project that buyer, or I wish that he wanted to stalk and close if I was going to project that buyer. To me, it's just very hard to project a 15% improvement for a horse second time out as a 3-year-old when the pace doesn't set up the way that I think he wants. But I agree with you, and definitely could improve here. It's just the improvement that I think is necessary to win is going to be difficult considering how the race stacks up for him.
Yeah, I think that I fully agree with you there. It's a combination of the two, looking for more from the horse, but also even if the horse improves 10%, maybe hits the board. The horse could take the step forward and hit the board, but as far as using, a 10% improvement, just for reference sake, would be a 90-91 buyer, right? And Barnes has run a 93, 105, and 100, right? Even like a horse like Gatekeeper, who you could argue third off the layoff as a 3-year-old, logically could take a step forward off the 85, and that horse is in the 90s. I think Retribution has the ability off an 87 to take a step forward, and he's in the 90s. So it's just, to me, there's other spots, other horses that are more logical that could take the step forward than Donut God. Although I liked Donut God a lot, and kind of bummed how that career has turned out. Yeah, I think the connections are as well. But hopefully they kind of take their time with him, depending on how he does here, and maybe he's got more room left as a 4-year-old. Let's move on to the penultimate race of the late pick 5, Saturday, September 20th, the Grade 1 $1 million Pennsylvania Derby for 3-year-olds, going a mile and an eighth in a fantastic field of 10 3-year-old colts in here. Baeza, third in the Kentucky Derby, third in the Belmont Stakes. Gazer, second in the Preakness Stakes, second in the Haskell Stakes. Goal-oriented. He was in those races as well. There's a lot going on in this spot. I applaud the John Da Silva, the stakes coordinator at Parx, because he attracted 2 really solid Grade 1 fields in September that's not at Saratoga.
Yeah, this is a fun race, man. Like you mentioned, we've got a lot of the old names. You got some new shooters here. Magnitude shows up off the Travers that was disappointing. You've got Sandy in here, who I thought ran a really good second in the Curlin last time out. So a lot of different directions you can go, and I'm going to go with the direction that is a price here. Give me the number 7, Big Truz on top at 10-1 here. It's a horse that I think, I know personally, I thought a lot of. Wins the maiden, faces Patch Adams in back-to-back races sprinting. That is never going to end well for you. Goes to the Indiana Derby and was almost too bad to believe in the Indiana Derby. And that race, you're like, okay, what happened? And then you see the Ellis Park Derby, where you saw the big truz that I think we kind of all thought was there. Time comes back very good, a mile and 1:43 and 4 after, or 1:43 and 3 after a 1:10 and 2 6 furlongs. Big truz had more in the tank. I thought this was just a really good effort in that race. And I want to take a little bit of a shot here with a price, and Big Truz to me makes the most sense as that price. So I'll go Big Truz on top here at 10-1. I think there's more in there, and this horse should have no distance concerns. That's the other part of this. This is a justify out of a Curlin mare. Like the distance should not be an issue. I don't think that was the reason for the issues there at Indiana Grand.
Boy, we agreed on 2 of the 3 that you used. This wasn't one of them. This one would be a big shock to me, I'll be honest. I know you got Justify as a sire. Curlin is the dam sire, but the dam's dam was a stone cold sprinter. So I don't know. Yeah, I feel like mile and 1/8 for me is a little far. I thought the mile distance at Ellis Park was right, but that was for him to bounce back from a too bad to believe effort to dominating by 7 lengths. Definitely a good sign. I put Baeza on top. I didn't single Baeza, but this horse is just so cool. He's been so consistent, and ever since he's gotten onto the dirt, I debuted him on turf. You see this at times with 2-year-olds that you're like, well, they ran horrible on the turf. It's because he didn't want any part of 6 furlongs. John Sheriff's was like, this is a stone cold route horse. He's a half to Mage, a Derby winner, half to Dornoch, the Belmont winner. So he was correct. This horse breaks the maiden, goes right into San Diego Derby, makes journalism work his ass off to get by, and then 3rd in the Derby, which I think if that race was a 1.25 miles and like another 100 yards, he's 2nd in the Kentucky Derby. And then the Belmont Stakes, he doesn't have quite the same pace set up to go into. So then Hector Berrios gets back aboard. He puts him close to the spot, and that's the closest Sovereignty has come to losing, was the Jim Dandy Stakes. Since the Florida Derby, that is the most vulnerable Sovereignty has looked. And I know it was an easy win for him. It was an easy length win, but Baeza gave him hell in that spot, and they wisely said, we're not going to go to the Travers. We're going to go to the Pennsylvania Derby, and he shows up, and I love that Berrios follows him east.
Yeah, I like rarely. We're I'd say a pretty pro Pratt show, right? I would say pretty pro Pratt. Like I like Berrios better on this horse. I like how he's ridden this horse better than what we saw from Pratt and his efforts. I think that putting him closer to the pace was a big positive in the Jim Dandy. That was as vulnerable as we've seen Sovereignty. He was never losing that. Like Sovereignty didn't even try, and he beat Baeza by a length. But to your point, we've seen a lot of horses try really hard and not get as close as Baeza did. So I agree with you in that sense that Baeza ran well in that race. I think the shifts to Berrios is a positive here. I think you're also going to get a really nice setup. I think this looks a lot like the Santa Anita Derby, a race that he won at 1.125 miles, where you've got some speed in front of him that he can kind of track, but he should be close enough to the pace that you're not getting lost in the shuffle there. So I used Baeza as well. That was my second pick here. 3rd for me is the number 3 Magnitude. I'm not going to put Magnitude off that Travers. Again, we talk about like races that are just too bad to believe. That was one of those where it was just too bad to believe. It looked like something just happened to the horse. And the fact that he turns around this quickly tells me that Asmussen thought that there was something that just kind of didn't go right on that day at Saratoga, and that everything is working right now. I like the fact, to me, it's a positive that they wheeled him back into this spot after being in the Travers, not a negative. It was one of those races where, would you have been shocked if we didn't see Magnitude again until a 4-year-old season and found out he needed throat surgery to help his breathing? Like that was the kind of thing I was expecting coming out of the Travers. The fact that it was this quick of a move right here into the Penn Derby, I think, is a positive. So 3 Magnitude makes the ticket for me as your gate to wire threat here in the Pennsylvania Derby.
Agree with you for that exact reason. If you look at his Iowa Derby and Risen Star efforts, you can say, well, the competition, he wasn't facing a Baeza or even a goal-oriented or Gosworth. That's correct. But what did he do? Ben Curtis sent him hard to the lead. When he got a comfortable lead, that's when you saw those huge, impressive efforts. The problem in the Travers, along with maybe the distance, was Bracket Buster hounded with him. And Bracket Buster had the same idea, was go out there, go fast, and try to beat Sovereignty. And then that's why you see Magnitude fade so badly. I think Magnitude's on my ticket instead of just singling Baeza, because if Magnitude has a length lead into the first turn and then out of it onto the backstretch, I'm going to be sitting there like stressed to the max, because it's like, this is exactly how he wins. If he gets pressured by a horse like, say, forward David of Athens, or maybe the one So Sandy who's shown some speed, there is speed in here. If enough horses, or even one, just decides go and press, like maybe even the 10 Moplex, then I think he doesn't win. But
I think it's the 2, Altabelle, who's coming out of sprints and is 50-1. Is the horse that's the real problem.
That's the one that you sit there going, why? If you're the connections manager, you're going, why? You're 50-1. Why are you here?
Yep, because I think that's the one. And David of Athens right to the outside, also a problem. But we always talk about how important it is to be inside speed. The horse inside of Magnitude, I think, causes the most issue. If you don't want to use him and you want to make the case that he's going to get hounded or not get the lead, I think you point to Altabelle here, who is just going to blow up his race if he decides to absolutely send. And he is fast enough as a 6-furlong sprinter who's getting the lead to be able to cause that problem.
I think David of Athens is a nice horse. I think he'll end up being better at a mile. I think this group, I appreciate Brendan Walsh taking a shot with him, especially when he has Gosger also entered in here. I wanted to play Gosger. I went back and forth on Gosger and ultimately dropped him off because I kept thinking, like the Preakness, that was journalism just freaking. But then journalism just kind of, what, did he freak again in the Haskell? Like what? That's back-to-back races where he's had the lead. He's been better than everybody else, but he just doesn't finish it. I think he's going to get overbet because of those near finishes in Grade 1 races, and already using Baeza. I couldn't put him on the ticket with Baeza.
Gosger I have 4th, didn't make the ticket, but would be the next on for me if you wanted to. I think Gosger is better than Goal-Oriented, so I'd rather be using the 9 than the 6. To me, the 9 is kind of the next logical horse if you want to go for one here. But I didn't want to. I think Baeza kind of covers Gosger. To be honest, I don't see Gosger winning this race, and the price again at 4-1. Where, if Gosger was 10-1 here, 8-1, I'm probably including. But I think that the 4-1 is probably pretty accurate. Maybe a little tick less, maybe 7-2, and that's just a little too short of a price for me for Gosger here.
The 5th and final race in the late pick 5, Saturday, September 20th at Parx, race 15. That's right, 15 races at Parx on Saturday. It culminates in the Parx Sprint Stakes, 6.5 furlong sprint for the older males. And again, tip of the cap to John Da Silva because the 13 older horses are in here. Now, are there Grade 1 winners in this? Probably not, but that just means, Mike, fantastic betting race.
Yeah, it is a very, very good betting race here. And unfortunately, I like the 2 shortest prices on top. I have the 1 Full Moon Madness as one of my favorite win bets of the day if we get that 7-2 price. This is a horse that, ran in the Grade 3 Nurad, the Grade 2 Todd Carter, the Grade 3 Tom Fool, and was able to win one of those races, faced better horses in the other 2. That was all middle of this year, early part of this year. Now comes back off the layoff, which to me is the biggest concern for Michelle Nevin here. But she does hit at 20% in stakes races, fairly good 15% off the layoff. And IRAD sees fit to take them out here, which I think is an obvious positive. Last race I thought was good, and the pace setup I think is going to be perfect here. I think Full Moon Madness able to save ground. 6.5, not a concern for me. 1-for-1 at the distance. Ran well at 7 in the toboggan as well. So I have the 1 Full Moon Madness on top, and this is probably going to be a win bet for me. I didn't want a single, but it is a horse where if you want to get aggressive with a separator single, I think the 1 Full Moon Madness does make some sense.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I had the problem where I thought I could make a case for too many in here. So I ended up going 6 deep. But I do agree on Full Moon Madness. By the way, I just was looking it up because I forgot he was cross-centered today. The 2 drop line will scratch because he's running this afternoon, Friday, in the Pennsylvania bred race. The same one that Farmo Power was entered in, and he is the top play for me in Parx race 11. So he will run. Farmo Power will run in race 11 Saturday because he's scratching out of the same race. But just want to let people know the 2 drop line is out. Top play for me, I went to the 9, Bucarino. And Bucarino, I'm not sure. I never know how to say this horse's name. It's another case of Paco being aboard a horse that's been very sharp. If you ignore the turf effort, he's had 3 wins and second beaten a neck by Full Moon Madness in that stretch. He ran in the Gallant Bob last year, was 3rd behind Ben Tornado, who's come back to be a freak, and then Sunny Breeze was also ahead of him. But a 5-for-6 horse locally. The one time he lost, it was that Gallant Bob. He fits. He makes a lot of sense. And I know he was the 40-cent favorite in the local prep for this, but he beat the piss out of those horses. And I think it only makes sense that he comes here with a big chance.
Yeah, he was 4th horse on for me. I only went 3 deep, so didn't end up using Bucarino, but I do think the horse makes sense, fits at the level, fits at the track. So I'm again, wouldn't talk you off. The number 9, I use the number 11, Damon's Mound. This is a horse where I may need to quit sometime soon because I really like Damon's Mound. I like the barn switch over To Bill Mott, I thought that the Vanderbilt was actually a very good race, running fourth to Bookham Daniel Mulligan and Nakatomi. This horse has shown more speed as well since entering into the Mott barn, which I thought was awfully interesting, and should be able to be a very important part of the pace here from that 11 post. The last race, I think, looks better when you see who was in there, like Little Knee, a horse that we talked about last week. I think we both are pretty high on. Surveillance, a pretty good horse. Damon's Mound runs third there after setting the pace. I think this is I'm not going to say an easier field, but there's not a horse that is like Little Knee in this field, right? Where it's you don't have that top end horse to kind of knock you off here. So I do like the 11 Damon's Mound here, who I may have to stop using if this ends poorly again at Parx.
I did think about you when I put this horse on the ticket, but I was like, he's good. He shows up with efforts. I think he's going to need the right trip, but he's got a great jockey in Luis Saez to get the trip done. So got Hall of Fame trainer.
Won the Gallant Bob back in 23. He likes his track.
Yeah, he can handle it. He makes sense. You're gonna have to eat a short price on him, but he makes sense. So we talked about those two horses. I used Full Moon Madness. We both used Full Moon Madness and the 11. My second pick is the 3, Hold My Bourbon. And I thought it was a little interesting you didn't use this horse because he beat Dilger by over 3 lengths, almost 3.5 lengths, back 2 starts in Saratoga. I know last time out, Hold My Bourbon in the Forgo, it didn't go his way. But again, Bookham Daniel, Scotland, some great horses in a Grade 1 race. It's not a Grade 1. This is an unlisted stakes with a $150,000 purse. This is the kind of race that makes a lot more sense after winning that race at Saratoga 2 back. But since Saffie took over his training, like suddenly it's back-to-back career best buyers, and then a Grade 1 race at Saratoga. It's Saffie. He's not going to win it, so he comes back to a spot. This is the kind of race that Saffie wins with these kinds of horses.
Yeah, I was just worried about the pace with Hold My Bourbon. I feel like Damon's Mound's kind of a better version of this horse. Now I wouldn't be shocked if the 3 Hold My Bourbon wins. It's a horse I considered when I was looking through it, but considering the price and the trip, I just decided to go away from Hold My Bourbon, especially since I was using 2 of the shorter prices on my ticket. I wanted to have at least one more price in here, and that's going to go to the number 4, 24 Mamba, who comes in here off a claim. But it's a claim that 10 Strike Racing makes, and 10 Strike Racing I think is one of the sharper ownership groups out in the game. Michelle, I always mispronounce her name. What's her name?
Michelle
Gangililio. I don't know.
I think it's Jean Julio. I think it's
Jean
Italian.
Julio. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. Jean Julio is the regular trainer for 10 Strike here, and she does well with these type of horses when they claim them and then flip them into stakes races. She's just 12% off the claim, but it's a $2.83 ROI. I thought this horse ran well last time. You've got multiple buyers that you can point to that fit. The distance is a good fit here, 3 for 11 at the distance. I know we're going to get the trip I want. This is a horse that can sit in 3rd or 4th and then be able to make a move, and the price is going to be right. I think I made every bit of that 10-to-1 price. You also get Carmouche here, who is one of the more familiar riders with Parx that's shipping in because he does ride occasionally, not consistently, but occasionally at Parx during the week as well. So I'm going to take a little bit of a shot here, close out the ticket with the number 4, 24 Mamba, 10-1 on the morning line.
But I thought about this because there's some interesting angles on it, like the fact that they claim the horse and go straight into it. I mean, clearly they claimed the horse with this race in mind, right? Didn't end up pulling the trigger on it, but the one time in the last 5 years that Michelle Jean Julio has claimed the horse and put into a stakes race, it was a win, and 10 Strike Racing was the owner. Now, this is like 3-4 years ago, but just to say this is not something they're doing willy-nilly, is claiming a horse and going into a stakes race. Third horse for me, I used the number 5, Maximus Meridius. A horse that I thought was, pretty solid at the end of his 3-year-old campaign into his 4-year-old campaign. The Carter didn't go his way, but he also was at the end of a, pretty steady campaign there and just needed some time off. He came back with the big win. Went to Saratoga. It's the same race where Damon's Mound was 3rd behind Little Knee. He showed a lot of speed. Again, probably a horse that based off of pace you might be worried about, but it is a very strong local horse. He's 4 for 8. You get the top jockey in all of Parx and Michael Sanchez. Butch Reed, the trainer, is very strong. They're taking a shot, but this horse is a multiple stakes winner against listed company in the past, and he did beat Full Moon Madness twice already earlier in his campaign.
Yeah, also hit the board 7 of 8 times at Parx, 4 wins in those 8 races. So it's a horse that likes the racetrack. And all you have to do is look back to like end of 24, and you've got numbers that win this race. So at 10-1, there are definitely worse horses that you can be using here.
Last one for me, I'll go quick. I did put the 13 on all the way to the outside. The post is horrible, but my buddy B won the crossed the wire first in the Bold Ruler Grade 3 race back in October. Won the local prep for this race actually in 2024, and instead of going to it, they decided to go to Keeneland, which was way over their head. But the speed figures fit. Usually beats up on non-grade 1 company. This is a tougher spot, but that grade 3 effort at Backwood last October I thought was decent. And then I know this horse won at Thistledown 8 days ago. If they run the horse here, that was just being used as a prep. Again, another case where I don't know if they'll use the 13, but if he runs, he's got speed figures and a success over the track to say he fits.
Yeah, this is one of those we call a glorified pet, right? Trained and owned by the same person.
But this is a good pet.
Well, that's the thing. You could say that, and I say that as a joke in a lot of cases. But this is one where you've got races that you can be like, oh, wait a second, that fits. Oh, that race fits, and you're getting a big number as well, sitting at the 12 or 15-1 price here. So I wouldn't talk you off this one either. I think this is a sneaky price. This is one of those that could go off at like 30-1. And then you see it wins the race. You look back and you're like, shit, I could have used that horse, right? Like that's this type of 13-0s. Now it could easily run last too, but I do think it's a good sign that if this horse is in the race, that is a big positive considering that short turnaround and the fact that look, this is not a trainer that has a ton of horses. This is not a trainer that has a ton of good horses. So you are very carefully placing your best horses, and if you believe this is a spot that is competitive, I think it's a good sign.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining us to talk about Parx Pennsylvania Derby Day, Saturday, September 20th, races 11 through 15. Reminder, the Philly Big Five, their late pick 5 sequence, mandatory payout. That purse should be quite significant, although I still haven't been able to figure out what that purse is. But I know it hasn't been hit in a long time because I cover Parx on a daily basis here. We'll give out our tickets one final time. It'll be down below if you're watching us. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. For you audio listeners, we'll read them out. I'm going to start off with 1, 3, 4, 7, then single the 5, then 3, 4, 8, then 3, 8, then 1, 3, 5, 9, 11, 13. Without the scratches, that's a $72 ticket, Mr. Somich.
So Parx is about to go off with their pick 5. So I would assume that they will put it up on the screen. So I have Parx over here. I'll keep you posted here if we do see anything pop up. Right now they're showing the talent tickets, both Jessica and Mike. Again, it is a carryover. It's a jackpot day, so I would not be playing this on jackpot days, but on the mandatory payout, it's a good day to play, and we're happen to get some pretty good races for mandatory payout. They do this every year. My 50-cent ticket, I'm going to go 1, 4, 7, 8 with 1, 5 with 3, 7 with 3, 7, 8 with 1, 4, 11. That will cost you $72 for 50 cents.
It's a question from Save the Clock Tower, by the way. Amazing movie. Back to the Future. I'm looking on their website for their pick 5 payouts, and I just lost it. Where is it? They do actually. Parx does post on their website the takeout rates. It's literally under there. 15% takeout with 30% carryover. So with it being a mandatory payout day, it's just 15%, right?
Yes, and that's why
that's good.
Yeah, that's the thing is that normally we don't go to Parx unless it's mandatory, and this is one of those spots where you're going to get, it's been announced, we'll see if they actually do it, but I'm sure they will, that you're going to get the mandatory payout here, and that's the difference because you're not paying 30% to the carryover, which it's hard enough to we rarely see the jackpot pick 6s get hit. To hit a jackpot pick 5, you need absolute chaos to be able to get a single ticket through there. So I would be surprised if this gets hit before Saturday.
Let's see if I can find this information. I know the carryover is not. There's new money of $13,700 in the pick 5 ticket. I can tell you that much. Where is it? Come on, I have it somewhere on your website, Parx. Nope. They don't have it. No, it'll be a big pool. I can guarantee you, it's going to be a really big pool. Whatever it ends up being.
I got an idea. Keep talking for a little bit.
Keep vamping. You're welcome, Save the Clock Tower. By the way, I do genuinely love Back to the Future 2. I'm not one of those people that thinks that the second one's better than the original. Am I crazy for that? It's fine if you disagree. There are some people that are so diehard about the second one being so much better than the first one.
The pick 5 was not hit as a jackpot on Tuesday, which was the last racing day at Parx, and the carryover pool was reported as $102,293. So
Okay,
we'll call it 100K sitting in the kitty, headed for Saturday with today's racing before it.
yeah, I think that that they'll easily go over $1 million for that one.
Yeah,
their last mandatory payout was Thursday, July 24th.
Yeah, so they should be able to get over $1 million. My guess is we end up, let's call it 125, maybe a little less, maybe 120, sitting in the pool for Saturday, and a 15% takeout. That means that you are playing 0% takeout up to about $900,000. So I would be surprised if we don't get $1 million.
All right. Last reminder, that'll be this Saturday. The only pick 5 they have all day at Parx. So not even a mid-race pick 5. If you want to play any picks, 15 races in total, check out the Racing Dudes Betting Bible for the Pennsylvania Derby. It's available now on the website. Go to racingnews.com/handicapping-products. And if you have a subscription to anything like the Premium Picks or the Samo Bombs, you do get all of the wagering guides included with any subscription that you have. Speaking of the Samo Bombs, I assume you're going to Parx on Saturday, but what else are you covering over the weekend?
Yeah, we got Parx, Churchill, and Aqueduct tomorrow, or Belmont at the Big A tomorrow. And then the plan is Belmont at the Big A on Sunday as well. The blah weekend last weekend. We hit 2 pick 5s, but nothing that you write home about. So hopefully we can find a big ticket here this weekend.
And that may come at Parx. We'll find out. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He's at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. I'll be on FanDuel TV Saturday and Sunday from 3 to 6, kind of bridging the gap between Los Al daytime and Los Al nighttime. How can we see you on the VSiN network?
You can get to hear me on SiriusXM, the Mad Dog Sports Radio Show tonight, 6 o'clock Pacific, 9 o'clock Eastern. Going to run the board with Patrick Maher on the football side there. You can also check out the Sharp Money podcast if you want all of my football NFL bets over the weekend as we rip through every game and how we're handicapping those. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to Sharp Money. And then Saturday and Sunday will be on Ready, Set, Bet. Saturday, that is 3 to 6 Pacific, 6 to 9 Eastern. Sunday, 1 to 4 Pacific, 4 to 7 Eastern. And then the contest show. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of shit right now. The contest show.
I love it.
Which is Sunday or Saturday night, which will reveal from 9 to 10 Eastern, 6 to 7 Pacific. We will reveal all of the picks for Circa Survivor, as well as Circa Millions and Circa Grandissimo Survivor. Only 1,600 people out in 2 weeks, Magic. So still close to 17,000 people alive chasing an $18 million pool.
That is phenomenal. And you can find all of that over at the VSiN network, covering Mike Somich, covering all things sports and betting. We'll be back next Friday with another Pick 5 show somewhere, probably not Parx, I'm going to guess. But no, until then, Mike, until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.